Hey, everybody, we're back again. John Elite, the Elite Show, the mob, the mafia, and the man. That's the man.
There's the man. Why you want
Well, I'm saying it this time.
I'm the man.
Back. Okay, you're the man.
I'm the man.
I gave you that.
You know, in some circles, that's not always good.
Well, if they like it, they can subscribe, follow our show, and we got a good one today. We're going to talk about the mob police. The mob cops, very famous.
So your famous topic, the mafia.
Yeah.
So I might as well. I'm going to sit back here and just.
I'm going to introduce who we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Steve Caracappa and Louis Appolito. Steve Caracappa and Louis Appolito were former New York City Police Department detectives who worked on behalf of all 5 families in American Mafia, principally Lucchese and Gambino crime families. They committed various illegal activities. The two became known as the Mafia Cops. Now, no big surprise about dirty cops. You happen to be one of them in the past.
Well, I had a little experience with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we could talk about The Godfather when there's movies that depict this stuff where Michael Corleone ends up killing the chief of police.
I just want to know, am I going to get in trouble if I don't pronounce their names right? Because, I'm not going to do good with that.
Well, I think we have somebody that used to work with you on the air.
Stephen Lou. I'm going to call him Stephen Lou. Is that good? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I don't know. By the way, I never met them. I think I met one guy once at a 7-5 party. He was dressed impeccably.
Well, I happen to have an ex-police officer on the line that did work with him. Let's introduce him.
Oh, he worked with me also, this gentleman.
I know he did.
Yeah, he worked in the, this is Ken, came on with me in 1982. You worked NSU. Ken, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your early part of your career so we can lead up to how you got involved with these 2 mob cops.
That'll be great. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I came on the job with Michael in January of 82 and was assigned to Brooklyn North and spent most of my career in Brooklyn North, as did Michael, working very high crime areas and dealing with some really crazy things. And fortunately, I was able to escape that onto police headquarters and eventually to Major Case Squad, Special Investigations, where I did work with Stevie Caracappa.
Yes. So before you actually jump into that, just give us a little bit of your. So you worked in the Brooklyn North. You worked in the 8-1. Give us so for people who are sick of my BS and hearing my connections to the street. What was it like for you? Now I was a Long Island kid, right? So it was just culture shock for me. But now you're a guy from I think you're from Flatbush area, Marine Park, right?
Correct.
All right, so now you end up in the 8-1 precinct, which is Brownsville. Bushwick, Bed-Stuy.
Yes, sir.
So for the people who want to hear a fresh mouth talk about what it was like back in the early 80s, now during the crack explosion, how did it hit the guys in Bed-Stuy?
Well, I can condense it for you to one easy statement. We averaged 300 homicides a year in my precinct alone.
Right.
One of the smallest precincts geographically in the city,
right.
Yet the highest murder rate, or one of the highest murder rates in proportion to the population.
Right.
So every day you went to work, you were at a crime scene, a homicide scene. And it takes a big toll on you. It takes a real big toll on you to see, I don't want to be prolific, but man's inhumanity to man, how savage the world really is when you're in that type of environment. And quite frankly, culture shock even from this kid from Brooklyn to walk into environments like that and see the brutality and the lack of concern for or value of human life whatsoever.
Yeah, Ken, I have to say the same thing. I remember driving. I tell this story once in a while. I might not have told it on your show. Driving down Sutter Avenue at 6:30 in the morning. It's June 13th, 1983. I just left Queens, a busy house in Queens, and I drove down Sutter Avenue, and in the ghetto was playing on the radio with Elvis Presley, and I'm driving into East New York, and I can just feel. And here I am. I'm pretty much still a rookie cop, right? I was in Queens for a year, running around Elmhurst and Jackson Heights, and I can feel the tension in the air as I drive down Sutter Avenue, heading off the Conduit, towards the 1000 Sutter, the precinct, and I can hear and a young man dies. The kid steals a car. They shoot him with a shotgun, and I'm going, in the ghetto, and I'm going. I got tears in my eyes. I'm being honest. I got tears in my eyes and saying, why didn't I listen to my mother and stay in school?
Well, what you described is called Tuesday in the ghetto, or Wednesday. That's a daily or daily occurrence.
Yeah.
That's no big deal. Doesn't make the news.
Right, yeah. And I found out quickly when I went in for a medal, and I handed the guy, I wrote up 4 or 5 things I did. This shooting, this, not that I shot anybody. This gun, this recovery, this murder scene, this rape scene. I handed the papers over to Captain Whalen at the time, who was the XO, right? Not the CO, but the XO.
Right.
And he goes, Dad, what do you want? I go, I want an EPD, I want a meritorious, I want this, I want that, I want a combat, whatever the hell it was, right? I forget the names of them, right? And he goes, this is an average day in Eastern New York. What do you think you're doing here?
Correct. If you had been working in some Brooklyn South in a real cushy job, a real great neighborhood, they would probably give you a meritorious or something.
Easily.
They give you EPDs, excellent police duties for recovering stolen cars down there.
Yes.
I've been in a shooting and had to fight for a commendation or whatever. So things are very disproportionate throughout the city of New York as far as, and also you have to self-pontificate yourself in the New York City Police Department.
Right.
They don't give you medals for anything. You have to write them up yourself.
Right. Yeah. People don't understand that. Yeah. It's not like they call you up and say, "Great job, son."
Yeah. Nobody kidding me. Unless they can get on the news.
Hey, Ken, let me ask you a question. So, we were talking about the 2 killer cops. Now, I think you had personal interaction with one of them. Is that correct?
That's correct. I worked with Stevie Caracappa.
So how'd you get there?
How did I get to Major Case?
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty long story.
Okay.
But I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at. I did some. I was assigned to a different unit. I was on restricted duty due to one of my injuries, a very severe injury, and I was working in a unit called BCI, which is the Criminal Bureau of Identification. It's fingerprint section and everything, and I was there recovering from an accident. And Eddie Byrne was shot and killed.
Yeah.
And
That's by in South Jamaica when Eddie Burns was killed by Malik, Scott Cobb, and Pappy Mason. I was in prison with Malik,
whose
real name was Scott Cobb. He changed it to a Muslim name.
Yeah.
Well, we had some information on who the alleged perpetrators could possibly be, and I managed to come up with some personal information on that individual that really didn't follow New York City Police Department procedures.
Oh.
And the detectives that went out and collared this individual and brought him in. And when the people in my unit found out that good information to get a cop killer was released, they weren't too happy with me, to the fact where I probably was going to lose my job. And the chief of D's came down, Bobby Colangelo, and then put me in the Major Case Squad.
Wow.
And that's where I retired out of. Because, quite frankly, at that point, the life of the police officers and the ability to apprehend the individual who killed that police officer was a little more important to me at that time than anything else. Had I had time to think, maybe I wouldn't have done it, but we were successful in what we did.
Right. Sometimes the ends justifies the means, I guess. In that case,
sir.
it did. Yeah.
Can you give us an inside look on the cop, the killer cops, the mafia cops, on a personal level, what you observed from them with their personality? And
Sure. Let me say at the beginning, I do know both of them.
Okay.
Louis Ippolito was a frequent visitor to the squad, always visiting Stevie Caracappa. Stevie Caracappa, he'd be the second one in the morning. I'd be the first. And we would sit and have coffee. He always kept to himself. He was, as Michael just said previously, dressed impeccably. I know his parents were haberdashers. They had their own clothing stores or store, and I believe they made custom clothing for people in Brooklyn, fairly high end.
Okay.
And so Stevie dressed like,
relationship.
Ted Lapidus.
That's why he fit in with gangsters, mobsters. He liked to dress.
And they probably went to his haberdashery.
Yeah.
Probably, but it's a thin line between good and bad in this world.
Yes, absolutely.
And Louis Ippolito used to come in and they'd socialize together. But my own personal relationship with Stevie, he was not the most gregarious individual in the world. He was rather cold and firm, but he offered me some good advice. I give you a little example. I had a little friend working in police headquarters that would come up and visit me every once in a while, a very good-looking young lady. And Stevie came over to me one day and said, "Hey, you shouldn't have this girl come up and see you anymore. It's drawing too much attention. Everybody's watching." So Stevie instilled in you the ability to, let's say a police term, fly under the radar. And you shouldn't let people know your business. And he was very good at conveying that message. Yeah. So, but I've had a few interactions with him. I've had one that was not so pleasant. I had one of my constituents came to visit me in headquarters, and there was a recent incident dealing with organized crime and a homicide, and I was proceeding to show the buddy of mine, using, consulting him for any advice, showing him the file on this certain homicide. And when Stevie came in and I was in that office, the organized crime homicide unit office, he flipped out that I was in there alone. Well, without him or his trusted whatever, and that really made me jump back and think, well, why is that? And then years later, when I found out the truth, you wondered why we could never lock up half these people. So, it was kind of ironic that I'm getting chastised for being someplace where I don't belong, when here's the individual that probably was responsible for a percentage of the cases we were working on.
Yeah. So just so people understand, the fact that you don't belong there, you weren't committing an offense by being in there, correct?
Absolutely not. It was within the realm of my job description.
Right. So,
the fact that he wasn't in there with me, that was his domain in his own mind.
Yeah.
And he didn't want me involved in any of his things, which, he was clearly, that was most of his cases in there, but the unit is open to the whole police department for information and investigation. However, not that unit.
Wow.
When he was involved in the murder of, he worked with the Lucchese boss Gaspipe. He was involved in the murder of two wise guys, Eddie Lino and also Bobby Borriello, who were friends of mine. They were Gambino-made guys. Bobby, personally, very personal friend of mine. Did it surprise you that this guy was out hitting street guys?
I was a little surprised when I eventually heard the whole truth and everything. I could tell that, between me and the whole world at this point, I could tell that Stevie wasn't always on the up and up. But in the job I came from, you mind your business. You do your job, you take care of your family, and you move on. So it's none of my business what Stevie was involved with, as long as, it didn't impede my work there in police headquarters. And whatever he did, I can't change the world. I got to just worry about my own.
See, that goes back to a lot of, in my situation, and Ken's familiar with a lot of it, maybe too much. But anyway, the point is that a lot of people say, how could you get away with it with all these cops around you? And Kenny just told you how, really, in a nutshell. It didn't affect me. It wasn't in my way. It didn't stop me from bringing a paycheck home to my family. So if it didn't concern me directly, I didn't put too much.
Well, this guy as a cop actually got involved in more hits than a lot of street guys themselves.
Including
he got involved,
including you?
Not including me. But yeah, seriously speaking, a lot of these mob guys, unlike people think, don't actually get involved in hits, or not even associated, or even in a conspiracy. A lot of them are just hang around guys and they're money makers, but they're not out there doing work like everybody believes. But these guys were actually doing work, and they were involved in several conspiracies. Another one was named Jimmy Heidel. His brother got killed. Jimmy Heidel was a nephew of Danny Marino, who was a very powerful guy in the Gambino family, and whose father was also a made guy with the Genovese family at one time. And Caracappa, Santoro, and they both, and Eppolito, kidnapped Heidel and handed him over to be tortured by Gaspipe. Not only did they know he was going to get killed, they knew he was going to get tortured bad by a known serious killer. So they were involved in not only in their own personal hits, but also in conspiracies and kidnappings to help these guys hit guys that were around the mob.
Yeah. The ironic thing that I feel and believe is that they got away with it, and and now this is where I could be wrong, and Ken may have a little insight on this, and John, you may as well. They got away with it till they wrote the book. Is that correct? Or were they actually being usurped because Gaspipe flipped and stuff?
Well, you had Gaspipe that flipped, and you have guys like who we talk about, Phil Baroni, that worked with me. Ken, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. There was another ex-detective, Phil Baroni, that was involved in murder with me and drug dealing and different acts of crime that people are taking back. But I don't understand why, because you said something earlier, Ken, that's true. There's a very thin line sometimes between when a guy is going to cross over to be a gangster or he's going to be a cop, or they try to play both sides. And the majority, so we can straighten this, for the people, we're a pro-police show. Right. We're pro-veterans, pro-America. But unfortunately, 99%, I believe, are good officers like anything else. But there's always going to be a handful of guys that abuse the law, whether they're cops or any other position in the world. So, for the people that are questioning it, I personally believe, being a street guy in the past, that most of the police officers do a right job.
You're correct, and I appreciate you saying that, because quite often nobody gets to hear that. However, just let's remember where we get police officers from: society, and they are a true image of society.
Hey, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. We talk about BetterHelp a lot on this show. Hey, I had a rough life, and over the years, I'm not shy about it. I go to therapy, to Kevin, and I discuss it all the time with you. And BetterHelp is nothing better than that. You can just get on the phone, reach out. You don't have to leave your house. The weather doesn't matter. The time doesn't matter. You always have a 24-hour access.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anybody on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours.
Give it a try and see why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp and The Elite Show. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/elite. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/elite. BetterHelp.
And we know what society's like, especially nowadays. So there's no reason why anyone with half a brain should think there aren't bad cops, because there are a few.
Right. Yeah. And they don't all start out that way, Ken, as you well know. Some guys end up getting impressioned by other cops around them, right?
Well, you have guys like Whitey Bulger in Boston who had an FBI agent with them. So there's different guys, not just cops, but you have FBI agents that, are crossing the line.
Law enforcement, law enforcement in general,
right.
We take them from society.
Right.
We didn't grow them in a petri dish.
Right.
We grew them from society, and people who've grown up, who have connections. And let me tell you about Caracappa and Eppolito. This is not a case of two police officers gone bad. This is a case of two young men secreted into the New York City Police Department by organized crime families and developed their career and enhanced it all through. You do know that Louis was one of the highest, I think with the exception of Mario Biaggi, the highest decorated police officer on the force.
Yeah.
Louis Eppolito.
Yeah. Yes.
You're aware of that.
Yeah.
So Kenny,
I don't know if our people are, but now they are.
What you just said is interesting, because what you're actually insinuating, if you mind me going that far, is that they utilized their wise guy connections to embolden and enhance their career vis-a-vis the wise guys themselves. Is that an accurate statement?
That the organized crime secreted Eppolito and Caracappa into the New York City Police Department as rookies and grew them as they grew as police officers to harvest the information years later that Stevie and Louis were able to provide organized crime.
Do you have any idea if these officers were born here or in Italy on the other side?
They're both born in the United States.
Okay, because I'm going to get to a point. In Italy, what they do is exactly what you just said. Yeah. They rise them up, whether it's within the government or within the police force, to be able to work alongside their organizations. So this isn't something new that they did. It's something that's been grown from the other side in Europe.
It doesn't take much to read Mafia Cop, Louis Eppolito's book.
Yeah.
It really doesn't take. He explains it right there. He doesn't say it's him, but he explains how the whole situation works.
Well, I'm not a big reader. I'm not a big reader unless I'm incarcerated. Then I read a lot. However, However, the fact that you took the time to read that, I mean, I'm first of all impressed that you have that kind of time for a busy guy that you are, well, traveling around the world and doing what you do. But
he sounds so much more intelligent than you,
yeah,
Mike.
something about
I can't believe he was on the job with you.
Yeah, well, some of us passed, and some of us just passed.
Ken, you must have been an A student, and he was a D.
Excelled.
Don't let Michael kid you. He was just as smart. I can assure you, he's a very smart man.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, Mike, I got to bring this out on you.
Instead of the
water pistol, I got the new one now. So don't cut me off again today. It's loaded, locked and loaded.
These guys can. You're an Irish guy, right? Am I correct, Kenny? You're Irish.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can tell by the brogue.
100%.
I can tell by the brogue. Yeah, you get around these guys. He's not even. He's Albanian. They call him a fake Italian. That's gonna kill him. That's gonna kill him because now I'm gonna piss him off. He gets sick of me cutting him off. But that's how we all speak. Am I
But
wrong?
tell him what I got here. He's
got a shotgun in his.
a water pistol
bazooka.
shotgun. It's a bazooka. So when he cuts me off, I shoot him with the water now.
He's gonna hit me with a bazooka.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Remember, I shoot back.
Yeah.
Ken, I'll never point it at you. I don't want to get shot by a real one.
He's all warmed up. He kept his badge.
Yeah, I know.
Mine I loaned out a few times, it happens. But so John, and Ken himself, he may know this. What kind of murder? I mean, what types? Did they get called up? How did they come across these murders? How did they do these murders? Or did they cover for murders? Or did they just do them themselves?
Let me give you a quick example. Two unlucky individuals driving in their vehicle. Caracappa and Ippolito received information where they'll be traveling. I think they picked them up around the Verrazzano Bridge on the Belt Parkway. Got behind them, pulled them over Plum Beach on the Belt Parkway. I know you're all familiar with Plum Beach.
Yeah.
And pulled them into that rest area where all the homosexuals meet and do their thing.
Plum work.
And walked up to the window and did them in the car.
Yeah.
Got back into their police car and drove away.
You know what's, a lot of people don't know. Eddie Lino, on those days, sometimes he had his child with him. And at that time, he gave his child, I believe, to his brother-in-law, Sal. And, it could have been really incredibly sad if it was something, and the child was also in the car. So
that's one.
I don't think you guys will ever know the amount of damage that both of those individuals done. Don't think you'll ever know.
No.
I mean, yeah, and if you put it in perspective, as Ken's suggesting from the book, I mean, could you imagine they could have stopped a lot of the murders in Brooklyn if these guys did their job rather than be part of the mob? Am I going too far by saying that, Ken, or is that?
Absolutely not. They've impeded dozens, if not more, homicide investigations.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, when Bobby Borriello got hit in front of his house,
of the family they're working for.
When Bobby got hit in front of his house, Ken, he got hit in front of his son, little Bobby, who was just, he was just a baby at the time, and his wife was there. So these guys had no qualms on hitting anybody or being involved in a homicide in front of family members, in front of kids. And Jimmy himself, he lost a brother also, I think, before that.
Let's not forget, and I'm certainly not justifying what they did, but there are other members of different organized crime factions that would shoot and kill the target. They'd kill the baby too.
Oh, 100%.
They'd kill their bird.
Yeah.
They'll kill their dog so the dog doesn't come and bite them the next time.
Yeah.
There are some people that believe in absolutely wiping the slate clean and removing. So I'm certainly not justifying their nefarious actions, but they lived by the creed also.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. A whole family got hit in Palm Sunday. We're in East New York. We was just speaking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. The Palm Sunday massacre.
The Italians didn't write the book on wiping everybody out. They wipe out their target and maybe an unfortunate witness or two. Yeah. But there are different other factions in this bad world that we live in, this evil world, that will take your whole family out. Right. Just because of you, and they don't want your child to grow up and extract revenge on my cartel, or for lack of a better word, my gang, and they will eliminate your whole family.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Barranquilla in Colombia. I woke up in front of my house, and Excuse me?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they machine gunned the car with I believe it was a prosecutor there.
Yes. Well, are you familiar with what a Colombian necktie is?
Yeah.
So that's that. That's the Colombian's favorite trait.
found
When
a
you
few.
open your mouth,
Yeah.
when they open your mouth, they extract revenge that way.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the world that's the world they choose when they get involved. That's unfortunate.
Whether
Unfortunately.
you live by it, you die by it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Ken, we really appreciate having you on and giving us an insight, knowing them personally, discussing this segment of the Mafia Police.
My pleasure, man. It was
Thank
good
you.
talking to you.
Thanks.
Mike, good hearing from you.
All right. God bless. All right. God bless.
soon.
We will.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So this is back to, an insider's view
Right.
of somebody that's really on the job committing those crimes. Because you did some things, bad things, but not things like this. You were out there doing money crimes and you weren't taking lives. This is guys that are supposed to be going out there stopping crime, protecting crime. They're actually out there committing crime.
Yeah, I was really I actually was just this is
on another level.
This is difficult for me to even swallow, and I was wrong 100%. I'm not justifying what I did, but when I hear this, I don't know if I'm jealous, which I'm not, because the level they were at. Like you think about, and just let's just drill down for a second. So, I'm a mob boss. I'm getting information every day from these guys. All right, the FBI's looking at you. The FBI's looking at this guy. They have him on this. They got this guy on taking trucks. They got this guy on taking tuna fish. They got this guy on drugs. They're getting all that information because they're in the task force. They're in the...
Correct, but what people don't understand is when Gotti was out, he had Daly is in 106 precinct who was helping him and he was paying him. Now, don't take my word for it. This is Gotti Jr.'s own 302s when he was debriefing.
Right.
Telling him they had corrupt cops.
Right.
That when his father had corrupt cops,
the 102. The 102. He
owned it from Daly. Daly controlled it from.
Yeah.
Now, you have this through all of policing, that the mob families all have, and same thing within the jails. We had hacks in the jails that would work for us. They'd give us information, they'd give us paperwork, and this is how the society intertwines between legit and illegit. And so when people are so surprised by it, it's not surprising.
What year did Daly work for him? I think he called me. What year?
Daly. Oh, Daly was there. So you're talking about when they had the Silver Fox stabbing was in the early 80s, because I was in California when that happened.
So when I had that run-in with La Compagnia, La Compagnia, when I had the run-in with Bruno, Mark, and Frankie, and people out there that know your show, they're going to know Bruno, Mark, and Frankie. You're not quite sure about Bruno.
I don't know which ones you're talking about, because the Bruno I know.
Bruno was a big guy.
No, Bruno was a short stocky. The Bruno I know who married Kathy Burke.
No, Bruno
was a tough guy. He was a legit
maybe the
tough
guys
guy.
who call in the show put a connection here. Bruno, Mark, and Frankie, they ran together in 87, 88, I know, because we had a fight with Bruno, Mark, and Frankie at Auto Sound City. Baron, if you guys know from the 7-5 documentary about my life, if you want to check it out, it was a good. But we're doing a film now. We're getting ready to produce a film. Actually, you saw today, I got a message from Eli Holtzman that they want me to meet with the writer of the script in Manhattan if I ever get back to New York. Anyway, so Bruno and we had an incident, right? It was a brawl. It was a Donnybrook. Bottles flying, bodies cut. We think it's stabbings. We don't know what's going on. Guns came out. People almost got shot. They would have got shot, but I was hammered. So they took the gun from me. They took the gun off me. You're going to kill someone. Give me the gun. We end up going to the hospital. We go to the same hospital. If you people are familiar with Baptist Medical Center on Linden Boulevard, just before the conduit, across from TSS store in Brooklyn there. We're in the hospital. Who's in the hospital? But the two guys we just had the fight with. So now there's 4 of us in there getting stitched up and worked on. There's a brawl breaks out in the emergency room. The cops from the 7-5 show up. Of course, Bruno loses, his composure. He loses his man. All he wanted to do is pick up his Italian horn because he couldn't get it off the floor because they knocked him around. But it is what it is, right? So the next day, I get a call. You got to come into the office. Well, I got to come into the office for Baron. He goes, yeah. He says, I got a problem. Guys pulled up here with limousines and bats and stuff. It might have been you. I don't even know. Crescent and Atlantic, Auto Sound City. Guys with baseball bats in a limo.
That's our neighborhood, so who knows?
Guys with baseball bats in a limo pulled up. They want to talk to Baron. Where's these guys? So Baron says, these guys are New York City cops. You want to come with baseball bats? You better do a little something else. It's going to be a problem. It's just, and I was caught up, jammed up. But so I have to go. I went to Baron's office. I go into Baron's office. My hand's fucking cut. I got my gun belt and everything, pulling the stitches. I still got a hole here, if you can see.
Oh, yeah, you do see.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, you got a big scar.
Yeah, I got a hole on my side. So I'm all stitched up, banged up, and all of a sudden I turn around and there's this big guy standing there. I go, hey, what's up? He's got sunglasses. I don't know him.
Right.
He goes, can Bruno come in and talk to you? Yeah, what's up? Who's Bruno? You met him last night? I don't know him. He goes, hey, I'm Bruno. I go, what's up? He goes, is everything all right? I go, what do you mean is everything all right? I don't even know you. He goes, he takes his sunglasses. He's wearing sunglasses. He takes his sunglasses. He's got 2 black eyes, right? He's a big guy, man. I go, that's not me. He goes, no, not you. The short guy with the curly hair. My brother. He says, I never got hit so hard in my life. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't do it, right?
Your brother, the fireman?
No, he was a cop.
Oh, okay.
The hockey player. He was a hockey player.
That's why.
No, the other one, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
No, he was a hockey player.
Yeah, he's tough.
Bye.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, he hit me so hard. He's got 2 black. He says, I never got hit like that in my life. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't do it, right? He goes, no. He goes, are we okay? I go, if you're okay, I'm okay. He goes, I says, fine, I'm concerned. In the meantime, 106 to 102 precincts on the phone with me.
This has got to be Daly calling you because God, I mean, he says the story himself when he goes in.
I'm on the phone with a detective.
He goes in and he gives this up.
I'm on the phone with a detective from the 102 precinct. He's saying to me, hey, Dowd. I go, yeah. He goes, this is Detective Shaw. Like he was like fronted on me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a cop. I got fucking tuned up too. I'm cut up from head to toe. He wasn't calling on my behalf. He wasn't calling on my behalf for you, okay, Officer Dowd.
Well, and that's why I said this is not a surprise. Yeah, here's another. Charlie, when Charlie was on the show the other day about Start a Dog,
right.
We were talking about Michael Corio and Louis Casman. Louis Casman, if people don't know, was very close with Gotti Sr., and he was considered, and he did a lot. He was his spokesperson for a while. He's very close with the Gotti family, and Gotti considered him like an adopted son, and it was very close. But we had an incident at Channel 80, and Charlie was bringing it up with off-duty officers. And we had, Carlo was one of the guys that owned a restaurant in the city at the time. We were on the Not Guilty boat, Gotti's boat. And afterwards, the father didn't come, but it was me, the son, and Carlo and a couple other guys were there, and we got into a fight with cops. When we did, Michael Corio, who was an attorney and friend of the Gottis, he also got convicted on a heroin case with Angelo Ruggiero and Jeannie Gotti and Johnny Koenig on their case. He was intermediating between and Louis Casman with the police and with us to drop the charges. At the time, Carlo got into a little beef with him about Denoy. He owned Denoy's with Gotti Sr. They were partners on First Avenue, a restaurant, like 72nd Street, something. And Carl was a nice guy, but he used to wear a ton of jewelry, and that's how it started. They were making fun of him. He was drunk. They told a different story later on, and I ended up hitting one of the guys. But going back to the story is Casman was in the middle of trying to straighten it out with Corio for us, with the police. So we all have connections with the police, for the people that don't know.
Right.
The mob, we're all interacted one way or another. Some are clean, some are dirty. And this is just part of the street world. When people think the street don't mix, it mixes.
Yeah. So Daly, he's on the phone with me, and I feel like I'm getting grilled by a detective. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm responding to this detective like he's like my superior. Meanwhile, he's just a guy in a 102, probably getting paid by somebody. So he says to me, basically what the detective said to me was, what are you going to do? Because in other words, if you want to press charges, they're going to press charges.
Yeah.
He's got their back instead of saying,
Yeah.
do you want to make a pinch? You want me to work?
Well, they were all dirty at that time. John Hamburger, I used to meet him. And he kicked a pregnant girl in the stomach one time, Spanish girl, nice girl. I went to see her to talk to her about it, and she didn't, and her and her boyfriend didn't. He was a street kid, her boyfriend. They lived 2 blocks from the club, so I was told to go see him by Gotti, the father, and tell him to let it go, and we'll reprimand John Hamburger, who we used to call Bonnie Five.
Right.
This guy's been hanging around forever since so he's another guy. These guys are 102 guys. Right. And he was plain clothes, and then he got demoted back to uniform because of all his shenanigans back in those days.
So Daly and I end up in a conversation, brief as it was, because it almost like he was talking in, like he was covering his voice or something, or he was talking on the phone with me, and he says to me, I said to him, I don't know what you're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, nothing happened, and whatever it is, it's over. He says, okay. He says, so we're not going to hear anything about this anymore. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And Bruno was standing right there with me. I turned around, I hung the phone up and said, hey, Bruno, as far as I'm concerned, nothing ever happened. He goes, okay, good, squashed it. But, that's who I am anyway. And I didn't want to bring a problem to somebody. But you know what? Years later, when I get pinched, they know the whole story, but they can't prove anything. They go to Baptist Medical Center, and they're digging through the records because I went to get treated there. The guy, Dr. Silva, at the hospital. Of course, I get there. The night I get there, there's a Indian guy who I didn't know, and he's digging in my side. He's like really hurting me. I'm screaming. And I'm going. They're holding on to me. Is he hurting you? Yes. My boys want to beat the doctor up.
Yeah, right.
I'm going. Yes, he's hurting me, but no. I mean, he's doing his job. I'm screaming into the. I'm screaming in the hospital. We dragged Frankie out and Bruno out. They had to go. They couldn't stay in the hospital. So they leave. Now the doctor thinks, who are these guys running my emergency room? The police? I'm running my emergency room. So he's sticking these sticks in me, checking for glass. Anyway, you could see the hole in my side. He fucking worked me, this guy. Anyway, so in comes the head of hospital security. He's not a cop. He's the head of hospital security. And my partner, Ken Urell, the guy with the rat, with the wire, he's sitting in there confessing to the fucking captain, a cap. He's saluting the captain, and I'm looking like this. I go, what the fuck's he doing over there? He's telling him, we only had a couple we're fucking legless. We only had a couple drinks, Cap. Mike got hurt, the bottle, the this, that. We're not sure if they knifed him, right? I'm going, Kenny, shut the fuck up. He's hospital security. He's not the duty captain from the 7-5 precinct. You don't have to tell him anything. So he's I should have known then. He was confessing back in 1987, our first go around, he was giving me up. But it's just, Anyway, so the 102. My uncle, speaking of the 102, my ex-wife, family. So my kid's uncle, next door, we grew up, worked the 102 for 28 years, Detective Billy Gill. I wonder if the boys knew him.
They had to be,
28 years, Detective Gill.
Listen, back then it was, those precincts were dangerous.
I'm just throwing a name out there because I know one of your guys is going to say.
Well, I did a show on Benny Gerentano. You weren't there. I don't know where you were. I think you were in Vegas or something. You were filming the other show you were doing. But on Benny Gerentano, we talk about a detective that we believe did not handle the case correctly, purposely. And that he's compromised. Now, how true that is, we're trying to dig into it now. And that's why Benny's sitting in prison now. So we got some people on the case, and we're looking into it. But, these aren't isolated incidents. Just like Phil Baroni staying with me, we were at Buttles, and this is an old story.
Buttles.
With Jim Iannello. It was a good friend of Phil, and they had a falling out. He was a driver for Morgantown. And we were about 5 or 6 cops. I'm the only guy that's a gangster that's with them. They get to an argument with other cops that were off duty from Nassau County. Both sets don't know they're cops. They fight outside. They pull guns on each other. The Nassau County Police Department shows up. Everybody's got guns on each other.
Oh, my God.
Badges are on, and I'm yelling, put the guns down. I'm the only guy not pulling.
And you're the only one who's killing people.
And at that time, Hartman was also with the PBA, was corrupt, right? He got jammed up
the lawyers.
With the money. With the
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City, and he was my guy. So, he was handling one of my cases with another attorney,
Richie Hartman.
Yeah. And I got him from Gotti, so he was handling it for me, and Marshall Trago handled.
So Gotti had ins with Richie Hartman.
Oh yeah. This is what he told me when I seen Richie. He says, "You're not going to jail. I took a gun for somebody else at the time. Greg Ryder had my gun.
Richie Hartman was the head of the PBA attorney for years.
He goes, don't worry. He says, you're going to get a probation, and it's not what I know it's going on. How much money you got? I didn't know I was going to shoot him money. He was going to Atlantic City. Yeah. But he used Marshall Trago, who was a very straight-laced, good guy, actually.
Put him out front.
He put him out front. Right. He was the guy. He didn't know what was going on.
Right. He's my lawyer.
Hartman. He handled it, and Hartman pulled his
Hartman called the PBA guys.
Said, he's getting 3 years, and that's that. Probation.
Wow, how it works out.
So, people that don't know how it works, it cost me $15,000 back in those days.
Right.
For taking the heat for something that wasn't mine.
Because of and that's all about the relationship between the PD and the mob guys back then. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you have the kind of interaction today. There's maybe a little bit of crossover, but
I don't think there's any interaction like the old days. Yeah. It was a different era. Right. All these guys that would work with us, whether it was on the street like Phil Baroni.
You got cameras, you got fucking tracking, you got everything today.
It's a different era. It's a different era.
Yeah, and the kids are taught differently today. Yeah. These cops today, they're abused.
They're abused, but they need to get trained better on how to be more personable, if I have to use it, because they don't know how to handle my neighborhood.
But they're all on computers. They don't interact much today, John.
Yeah, here's the problem. You got Eric Adams now that's running around the street talking about a woman playing...
The divider in chief. He's the divider in chief.
He said one of the stupidest things I ever heard.
He divided the PBA.
But not that. He's talking about woman playing pro basketball or some shit like that. Whatever he said something ridiculous. There's no lineup of girls trying to get into pro football, baseball, or any other sport. It might have been baseball, actually. But then they're not being held back. They just can't make the teams. If they can make the teams, I'm all for it.
Right.
But he said something as stupid as that instead of worrying about the people that did not comply with whatever mandates were, on the job. He fired them all and hired them back.
Right.
And some of those people in my community are black, Spanish, and whatever color, white. And why aren't you taking care of your people? So he's worried about that, worried about crime, worried about taking care.
His brother got a nice job.
Yeah, cushy job. That's a politician, Eric. One strike as a politician.
There
you go.
You
fired some of my brothers and sisters from East New York and everywhere else. And listen, you're supposed to be looking out for your community, and you're not. So I got a problem with him already.
And maybe we'll close on this note. What about the cops? And you?
How long am I running for?
You're at 42 minutes.
No, I'm not closing yet. I'm not finished. Sorry, everybody. We're going to keep going.
Wait. So, on this note, anyway, my point is this. You got this whole thing about shots, not shots, but now he fired these cops. He fired these cops. He let their firing.
Well, we're not going to talk about why he fired them because we know why.
Well, he didn't fire them. They were fired before he got around.
Okay, why aren't they rehired?
That's what I want to know.
There's single mothers that I've talked to that were on a job that were Dominican that I spoke to and one black woman. Right. They're single moms, and they spoke to me about this. Why now that everything's canceled can we not have our job back?
Right.
And I'll give you the answer for that. And you know the answer. They want people that are going to be yes people, not mind thinkers that could go out and really do the job well. Yeah. They just want to know that they could control them 110% like a communist country. Right. Eric Adams is a politician. He's not a police officer anymore. He's not looking out for his brothers and sisters because if he was, he'd hire them back and he'd worry about those single moms that are trying to raise their children, that were doing the right thing, who work, risking their lives. They're
trained.
Out there.
They're trained.
And men, but I'm talking about the woman that's who approached me and talked to me about this. Trained. They're good people. They're trying to make a living. You just ruin their lives with a snap of the finger. Not only this, they're saying their kids aren't worth anything. And this is why I'm after the politicians with term limits and after the politicians stop taking that political money because then they owe debts to everybody. And that's why this country's in the middle of a catastrophe around the world with wars when before we were safe. And then we have a possibility of getting to World War III again because of politics, not because of anybody caring about the inner city kids. And I'll say it one more time. Obama, you gave $4 trillion and billion to Iran, but you didn't give it to our inner cities. They're still killing each other in those neighborhoods. They are your skin color. They're my brothers. And why aren't we in sisters? And why aren't we taking care of the inner city?
Your guest,
and I'm going to keep saying that about the inner
your
city.
guest on the previous show that we did, and it's been said before, made a point that would change the world for these kids. You know, he said the noise in his head never stopped because of the life he lived and the degradation in his household, the gambling, the fighting, the no food on the table. That always kills me when I hear that, because you know I didn't have an easy upbringing because we had a lot of children, you know, but. You know, and once or twice it was a struggle to put something on the table, but it was always something on the table in our house. We always knew we were going to eat. I remember one time I got smacked because I was hungry after we ate. Because my mother had to like cut the pasta into like a bigger pot because we invited the neighbors for dinner and we didn't have enough pasta to feed everybody well.
Brother,
you know?
last month, me and you got out of our car. We went into a neighborhood where most people don't go.
Yeah.
We sat down, and you know why we sat down and everybody's got open arms? Because we can relate.
Right.
We understand each other.
Right.
And this is what these politicians just don't want to understand. How to make everybody relate with each other and stop trying to divide.
You when the guy
everybody.
wanted to chase us, but we didn't let him chase us?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He wanted to chase us.
Because he don't know us until he knew us.
Right.
And then there was hugs.
Right.
Is a difference.
That's right.
And when people understand you're not there to hurt, but you're there to help.
Right.
And that's where...
It's a two-way street. Life is a two-way street.
But
John.
Eric Adams became a politician the minute he went in. Give those people their job back. They deserve their job. They deserve to take care of their family. Where are they supposed to go now?
Yeah, it's not fair.
No, it's not fair. And worry about crime. Stop talking about, trying to, again, he's trying to distract from the moment and talk about, what's going on in sports. Who is he, the sports director? Do your job.
But the kid Mike that was here, had no food on his table, he didn't know if he was going to eat, he said, if I was pushed in school to stay with school because he had a learning disability.
Well, you don't got to go to school, but a trade.
But then he said the key thing is, or a trade. He said, so this way you could make something of yourself. Because if you don't give people, and I even shared about it, I was going to be an accountant, but I didn't have the mentoring in an accounting field.
Take the 16-year-old kid, like one of my sons, he didn't like school. Take those 16-year-old kids that are in my neighborhoods and go give them free training for a truck driver job. You make big money, and we need truck drivers.
Oh, yeah, today.
So why don't you offer them something without leaving them out there where they got no way to make a living?
Connection, pride, independence.
And stop giving them 200.
Independence.
The 200 they give them, they act like it's to help them. It's actually to hurt them because they want to keep them down, and they'll say, with the 200 they won't go pursue a career.
Self-esteem gets built. You don't have to beg for something from somebody. You don't have to run around washing tires on someone's car and begging for money from them. You can stand on your own with a career, with a skill, a plumber, electrician. These are the guys today that are going to plumber, electrician, tile guy, painter.
DC9.
AC guy.
Yeah.
All these guys, they're going to be the millionaires in the neighborhood soon. Believe me when I tell you this.
If it was the painter, the electrician, or something else, I'll be homeless because I stink at everything. Get my sons to handle.
I'm quasi. I can do a little bit of all of it. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm like the list. The guy, the honey. I'm good on the honey-do list.
I'm the guy that you can go get your lunch and everything for you.
Oh, you're gonna go. You're gonna do the runner.
Yeah,
you're gonna be the runner.
I can do that. I can keep the order straight.
Keep the order straight. You are pretty good. You have a good memory, though.
Yeah, well, it was good. They used to call me the computer, right? That's what the government called me. I'm good with numbers. I got a good memory.
Well, I was pretty good with numbers too. They say. But
Yeah,
not the number.
if
You
we
got
had to
dates.
split money, I
You
would
got
go-
dates and names. You're very good with names and dates. I
Yeah.
give you that because I don't even know how to say Stevie Carapopa's name.
Caracappa. You remember like Abbott and Costello, when I give you a banana, it's a one a banana, and I give myself, and it's a two a banana, one a banana, two bananas, and three banana.
Yeah. Who's on first base? Third, first base.
We got to do that skit.
Yes,
because I already shot you a couple of times out with my shotgun. I didn't hit you with that water
I'm a
yet.
little stroopy-eyed right now, for real.
Really?
I'm getting
Why, you didn't sleep last night?
No, but unlike you, I put a lot of energy into these shows. Look at
you. Got to read more. Yeah, I'm trying to teach you to read.
Connor's over there. Connor's over there.
I even read on the show. I read it so I got it
it.
exactly the way it was said. But I got a good memory with things.
You have a good memory with that. I would screw that up. I'd read it and forget it the minute I read it.
But I'm never going to stop this until I get our neighborhoods right. Honestly, this is something to me because I hate what's going on politically. They're using our neighborhoods and they're trying to divide them, and I'm never going to stop with that. Because listen, I don't give a shit where they come from. Those kids all deserve a life. Some a lot better than what I had as a kid, and other people, they deserve a life. Stop maneuvering these kids. They're maneuvering them.
Well, I also heard you got invited to see the President of the United States next week.
Yeah.
Not me. How come? What's up with that?
They know better.
Oh, son of a bitch.
They know I have my manners.
And then I understand you're flying out to California.
I'm flying out to California. I'm
What are you
doing
gonna do out there? I'm gonna beat you on this. What are you gonna do out there?
I'm possibly doing another Netflix series that's out already.
Big
And
guy, what are you doing out in LA?
I'm doing a couple TV shows and one podcast. So I'm going to be busy.
Are you gonna be on that show that I've been on already?
Yes, I'm going to be on that show you're on already. You were there lead.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
You were there lead. You were there lead.
Mob TV.
Mob TV.
Yeah, with Larry Mazza and that whole crew.
Yes,
yeah.
What's up, And
Larry.
So yeah, I'll be busy out there for a while.
All right. Well, that's a good show. I'm glad Ken called in. That was nice to have.
Yeah.
What do you think, Connor? Did you? I mean, it was good to have the little extra guy who's actually worked with these guys there, right? Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Pretty interesting, right,
Yeah.
Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have Connor on one time.
We should have.
He's a
him
nice
on.
guy.
Yeah. Not only that, he probably is a little bit. Maybe.
He's a little smarter than us too.
Well,
So
he
that'll
knows how to
help.
work these machines, so that makes him the boss.
Well, he's smarter than us. Besides that, we're off the air. We were talking about a couple.
You gonna tip us out here?
Yeah, everybody hit the subscribe button if you like it. Follow us, John Elite,
Mike Dowd,
the Mob, the Mafia, and the Man. He's gonna get it down. I got to get him to study.
I'm dyslexic.
I know, but I'm teaching. The Mob, the Mafia,
the Mafia,
the
the Man.
John Elite. Remember my name.
Yeah, the Man. That's all you have to remember.
All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks.
New York City.